Everybody and their mother already knows about hyper poop. But what about hyper rhythm? Hyper hardstyle? Or even hyper ambient? Well, in today's lesson, I'll show you 5 different techniques you can use to make any genre sound hyper. And by the way, all these tips are taken from me and Scro's new hyper EP called Scro Belly. Let's get started. Okay, so check it. Hyper music is consumed by Zoomers, the most overstimulated generation in history. I mean, every video they watch is like 2 videos playing at the same time. So, if we want to make hyper music, my first tip is to always have at least 2 melodies play at the same time. Check it out. Here I have 2 melodies, one designed to stimulate the left side of the brain, and the other designed to stimulate the right. One quick tip for writing melodies is to actually start with chord progressions. So for example, here I have a good old D minor 7. We can move that up to, I don't know, an F major, then a G, and back to D. But to make it melodic, we can arpeggiate the chord progression. So check this out, I'll start from the bottom. Okay, that's beautiful. Sweet, and with that, we basically have our right side melody. Okay, beautiful. But what about the left side? How are we supposed to write another melody on top of this? Well, another tip is to start your secondary melodies up a third from the first one. If we start with D here, then all we gotta do is go D is 1, E is 2, F is 3, and boom, we've started up a third. And then we could just do the exact same shape up on F. Since we're starting a little bit higher, maybe we'll add a bit more melodic flavor. So we can do something like this. Okay, that's beautiful. And if we put that up another octave, that's even more stimulating. Let's hear these 2 melodies together again. Oh my God, even Zoomers whose brains have been completely shriveled by TikTok would find this stimulating. My second tip for writing hyper music is to use a ridiculous amount of percussion, especially if that percussion reminds Zoomers of their phones. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and use expression control. Expression control has a random parameter, which means it's going to send out a random value every time I play a new note. We can go ahead and map this to, I don't know, say the transposition on this, and create this sort of randomized percussion loop, especially if I turn up the random panning to 100%. Oh my God, let's take a listen. God, these Zoomers are bound to stay engaged now. My third tip for creating hyper music is to use ridiculous amounts of distortion. Check this out. I got a sick house drop with the boomer kick. Let's take a listen. Okay, it's not bad, but let's try it with the zoomer kick. Oh shit! Now how the heck do we go from boomer to zoomer? Well, back in the day it was just enough to put a saturator on a kick, and you'd find yourself a respectable homeowner on a single income with 0 student debt. These days, it's a little bit more complicated. So let's go ahead and make a zoomer kick from scratch. I got all these effects turned off with the default instance of Serum. Let's start by changing the default wavetable over to my sweet basic shapes. Oh, look at that beautiful curvy sine. I'm gonna go ahead and map LFO1 to the level and take the top point here and drag it all the way to the left. Let's tighten things up a bit just by adding another point at the bottom and curving this bad boy up. Next, we'll use LFO2. We're gonna map this to that coarse pitch. Let's make it unidirectional by hitting Option Shift Click. Now it's just going in one direction. That's my favorite band. Next, let's take this top point, drag it all the way to the left, and curve this bad boy down and create a nice little kick shape. Well, that's a sweet boomer kick, but how do we go from boomer to zoomer? Well, let's start by adding ridiculous amounts of distortion with the filter. I'm gonna just crank the drive all the way up here. Maybe map LFO1 to the filter cutoff. Okay, that's hot. Let's open up the wavetable editor here. Here I can actually draw in additional harmonics or overtones to sort of shape my sine wave into something crazier. The higher the bar is here, the louder the overtone, and the more to the right they are, the higher frequency it'll be. Oh, that's harsh. Now if I get rid of these overtones and go back to my trusty sine wave, you can see there's another row of bars at the bottom. This controls the phase of each harmonic. Basically it's the delay, so you can see I'm shifting that sine wave left and right. Let's add those overtones back in and start playing with the phase, because this will actually really change up the sound. Okay, that's hot. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my Zoomer wavetable. Let's go back here and add a little bit of noise, but I'm going to take some inspiration from Gen Alpha and use Alpha NZ as my noise source. Let's map LFO1 to the level here and run that noise through the filter just by pressing N here. Oh, that's disgusting. Very hot. Let's go to the effects section, add some hyperdimension to widen the shit up. Some distortion. Map LFO1 to that drive here. And maybe let's switch the filter to pre and then high pass to just, shape the sound even further. Okay, that's sexy, beautiful, gorgeous. Next up, let's go ahead and turn on EQ8. Bring out that high end, smash it with an OTT. Mono that bass. Add some more bass with this multiband. Oh my god. EQ out that mid-range, and last but not least, let's slap Eli Derp's Fat Rack on there for some sweet, beautiful, gorgeous distortion. Oh my god, let's hear that in the mix. Holy shit. And to make it even more zoomery, I've resampled this kick, adding even more ridiculous amounts of processing to it, and chopped up the kick to create some crazy glitches. Oh, that's ridiculous. Let's hear it again. Oh my god! My fourth tip for writing hyper music is to just make the music you were going to make anyway, but faster. For example, if we take a genre like dubstep or rhythm, that stuff's usually around 140 and sounds like this. Okay, but that's way too slow to fit in a TikTok reel. So let's speed things up to 70. Oh, so much better. Now here's the sitch. If we're really going to appeal to Zoomers, we need to prey on their sense of nostalgia for the early 2000s. So a great way of doing that is slapping plugins like Digitalis on your sounds. This will make your sounds feel like they're being downloaded through a dial-up connection on LimeWire. Take a listen. Oh, that's crazy. Now, if you don't want to shell out the dough for something like Digitalis, you can get something similar out of stock Ableton effects. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward and play a second part of the drop, which sounds like this. Now, I got these perk sounds, and I want to make them sound more digital and nostalgic. So a great way of doing that is using Spectral Resonator. Check this out. It can take atonal sounds like percussion and make them feel like they're actually playing notes. Now, to make the sound actually like it's in key, you can route MIDI into the Spectral Resonator. Check it out. I got a track on top that's just holding out chords. That's beautiful. Let's get that chords MIDI into Spectral Resonator by selecting the MIDI input here. There's my chords track. All right, let's take a listen. Oh, that's incredible. But I'd like certain perk hits to ring out longer than others. So I can actually automate the decay here. Let's go ahead and re-enable this. Oh, that's hot. I can also play with the different modulation modes to get different sounds. Oh shit, this one's crazy. That's amazing. Let's go ahead and hear that in the mix. Boy, I'm tired of all this ultra-fast hyper music. What happened to the days when music could take its time and people could pay attention to things for longer than 15 seconds? Don't worry, you can also make hyper ambient music. Here's how. Let's start with something even you can understand. A nice guitar. What we want to do is combine this guitar with the existential dread that Zoomers face on a daily basis, which sounds like this. To combine these two, I'm going to use a plugin called Morph. Check it out. With this XY control, I can just blend these two sounds together in really interesting ways. You can adjust the formants here, even add a little bit of reverb. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Okay, Zoomers. So what I've done here is I've just resampled all that on a separate track. And now let's start bringing in some of the ambient sounds that Zoomers face. So for example, we'll get a recording of the Zoomer on their walk to the Amazon warehouse for their unpaid internship. Let's maybe also get a recording of the Zoomer opening and using their keys to their $5K a month studio closet. And then maybe the sound of the Zoomer's stomach as they try to digest their 5th can of Liquid Death seltzer. And then maybe the sound of wind chimes from the front porches of homes they will never be able to afford. Oh wow. Hyper music doesn't all have to be bold and brash. It can be soft and beautiful and heartfelt. I really underestimated these Zoomers. Oh wait. What's happening now? I thought we were doing hyper ambient music. Oh, this is starting getting too crazy. Oh God!